And so we won't be releasing this model widely.
This is what happened. One of the world's biggest AI company, Anthropic, have come up with this model called Mythos. And they claim that this powerful model can discover critical cybersecurity risk in almost every major operating system, every web browser. But we're not going to release it to the public. Instead, we created something called a Project Glasswing. So today we're going to dive into what this Mythos is, why is this dangerous, what are the things that they have discovered, and how the world has been reacting. I'm sure you would have heard about this topic everywhere in the internet and social media for the past few weeks. Let's kick off with the key question. As I have briefly mentioned, Mythos is Anthropic's most capable cybersecurity-focused AI model. So before early April, they have been doing this series of testing. They have been series of testing trying to discover something called a zero-day vulnerabilities. Zero-day vulnerability is error in a software or a hardware that none of the developers or the engineers have experienced or discovered before. It is 0 day because they didn't have time to patch it, to cope with it. So Anthropic, they have launched something called Project Glasswing. They actually have the whole website about this. Project Glasswing, this web page, it demonstrates in a lot more detail. It says it's an initiative to secure the world's most critical software and give defenders a durable advantage in the AI era. So simply speaking, it is a big group of the key companies in the whole world gathered together, led by Anthropic, trying to protect the world, being a defender to this AI security threat. Official release, you can take a look in red.anthropic.com. Red.anthropic is a team, the website that Anthropic's Frontier Red Teaming Research and Publication Hub, which is all kinds of safety-related tests and evaluation results, the observations, and the case study that is worth taking a look. Now let's look into how did they test this Mythos? How did they conclude that this is too dangerous that they cannot be released to the public? They have listed down how they did on this red.anthropic.com. But I summarized this by coming up with this diagram that you can take a look. It starts by picking a target code base. It picks either open source or closed source binary. It ranks the files by risk, scoring each one for the vulnerability likelihood. Then it spins up inside the isolated container. The one agent will be assigned to the one high-risk file running in parallel, so that many agents can work on multiple files at the same time. And each agent explores autonomously, just like our cloud code goes through our code base. It reads the code, forms the hypothesis, runs the target, forms the debug logic, and I do the iterations. And when it finds a bug, it moves on to the second agent. Second agent does a validation work. It asks, is this a real bug? Is this really interesting? Is this something that the human contractor is worth taking a look? And if it says yes, it moves on to human security contractors triage severity. And if it passed this stage, it also goes to the coordinated disclosure, the report to the maintainer, patch, and then publish. So using this whole pipeline of trying to evaluate and discover the zero-day vulnerability, they have in fact discovered hundreds of them. They haven't revealed the exact number or one-by-one case studies, but they have given us the good enough example to surprise the world. The first example that they have shown is the 27-year-old vulnerability in OpenBSD. OpenBSD is claimed and well known to be security hardened operating system in the world. So it is used in the firewalls or the critical infrastructure. But they discovered a bug that allowed a remote attacker to crash any machine by connecting to it. So meaning that they discovered the critical bug which was not discovered for 27 years. Something that the human engineer or the cybersecurity officer couldn't find it was discovered by AI. And the other thing they discovered is the 16-year-old vulnerability in FmpEG. If you have done video editing or playing around the video, you would have heard of this. It's a software that encodes and decodes basically all video in the internet. And they discovered a line of code bug that wasn't detected on the automated testing tool, which was ran over 5 million times. This kind of gives us a message that the current testing tool is not good enough in detecting this AI discovered zero-day vulnerability. The other thing they have pointed out that people find the most alarming is the error about the Linux kernel. If you are an engineer, if you love computer, you would have probably wrote down the Linux comments in a Linux kernel. It's one of the fundamental things that every software engineer uses, but they have discovered vulnerability here too. But this is not the end of what people were scared of. I think this is a good example what New York Times journalist Kevin Roos have put up. He read through the system card of Mythos preview. System card is kind of a report, safety report that Anthropic release whenever they release a new model. It shows like a case study, what they did, how the model reacted. It's quite interesting to see all those like reactions of the model. And one of the things that he have mentioned and put it up here, Mythos preview was provided inside the secure sandbox environment. And in this sandbox, they made the simulator user to give the mission to this Mythos to escape the sandbox and send a message to the researcher. And the thing that happened is, and also the thing that this Kevin Rooser have pointed out on the article, the researcher was having a lunch, having a sandwich in the park, but the researcher received unexpected email from the model that they have completed the mission. Isn't this a little creepy? I find this is like a science fiction where your AI message you, oh, I have completed this. And especially if it's an AI escaping the environment that you have set it off as a secure environment. However, regarding this action of Anthropic releasing Mythos model and coming up with this Project Glasswing, people have conflicted view about this. Some people say it's a marketing stunt, because Anthropic have such a great PR release team. They came out with a perfect timing to come out with this too dangerous label. And maybe this model is not as good as what Anthropic says. But on the other side, what people say is this is actually a warning for the whole world. Anthropic is being responsible about the usage of AI. So instead of putting up their model, they're trying to come up with a way to use AI models in a much safer way. Let's look at what each different viewpoints have talked about. I've looked at one of the comments people talked about the Mythos incident. This is very much PR play by Anthropic. Okay. Daniel Sandberg, he said he had the opportunity to get access to the Mythos. And after he had tested around, he said, there's no evidence that this setup finds issues to any particular higher or more advanced degree than the other tools to have done before Mythos, meaning that this model is not significantly more dangerous than any other public model outside, which concludes him to say this is the greatest marketing stunt ever. So this makes us think about, is this Mythos genuinely dangerous, or is it just expensive press release? The other thing that people point out is this timing of the release. People say Anthropic is really good at making a perfect timing. When they release a major model, they intend to simultaneously publish the research accompanied with this new model, highlighting the worst case scenario, make people get interested and look up about this new model. The other thing that people have pointed out is this dangerous to release action have already taken by OpenAI GPT-2 previously. Back in 2019, they have also announced that GPT-2 might be too dangerous. And so instead of publishing the full model, what they did is throughout the 2019, they released a smaller model on February. And then on May and August, across 2 times, they put out the intermediate version. And in November, they have released the full model and all the code, which means they took these extended periods trying to fulfill people's AI hype management. Funny thing about this is I was listening to the Hard Fork podcast by New York Times, and they have also mentioned that GPT-2 wasn't even good enough to write a good story or a poem, but they scared people like this is one of the most intelligent AI models that we'll ever discover. So people raise their eyebrow and start to say, is Mythos taking the same play? The other thing that people have pointed out is this is perfect timing to make this kind of issue and drive all the attention, because of their upcoming IPO. They have repetitively reported that their IPO might be coming up around October 2026. And you remember all the list of organizations for the organization consisted of the world's most famous and the biggest powerful financial institutions and the tech companies. They say this is type of the group that you're trying to gatekeep the reputation by giving them the limited access of the Mythos preview. They kind of enhance their commercial relationships and make them independent on cloud. Maybe it is marketing, maybe it is genuine warning. But before we jump to the conclusion, let's look at the other point of view. So people who say this might be an Anthropic's good intention to warn the world that the world is in danger by this AI-driven cybersecurity threat. They say Anthropic has been consistently warning about this. I looked up some previous posts by Anthropic, trying to follow their footsteps. And on August 2025, they have published a blog post about detecting and countering misuse of AI. They have listed down how the misuse of AI is happening. And not only that, they have released a report called Threat Intelligence Report, August 2025. They have listed down some case study. One of the things that is relevant to this incident would be a Vibe hacking. Criminals used cloud code to scale the data extortion operation, trying to plan out a bit how to exploit it. All those cyber criminal espionage was done. And interestingly, after releasing this report in August, they have released a similar kind of real Vibe hacking that have happened in November 13th. They talked about the actual threat that have happened, which they suspect in high confidence, led by the Chinese state-sponsored group. And they say that criminal company and that organization, they had manipulated cloud code tool, attempting to infiltration into the roughly about 30 global targets, and succeeded in a small number of cases. The interesting thing about this article is, if you look at it, they show how they actually tried to espionage using cloud code. But now I started to wonder, if this is the case, if Anthropic tried to warn the world, how did the world react, beginning from the April until this May? So I've tried to track down what were the things after this Anthropic's Mythos incident. April 13th, not too long after Mythos preview and the project Glasswing was revealed, UK's AI Institute, AISI, they acted as the first public body to review, independently evaluate a restricted frontier model and publish their findings, which means the public body started to get interested in what is this Mythos? Is this really powerful? Can it stop the whole government system? Is it as dangerous as what Anthropic have discovered? And in April 20th, there was an article talking about National Security Agency, NSA, have reportedly used Anthropic's Mythos. And this is interesting because I'm sure you would have read the news about how Pentagon have listed Anthropic as the supply chain risk. But despite NSA is underneath the Pentagon, they are still using to assess how dangerous Mythos is. And on early May 5th, the tech firm have agreed to voluntarily submit their models for testing through Commerce's Center for AI Standards and Innovation. And pretty recently, last week, very interesting because it's very unusual for the big AI companies executive to give a live demonstration for the House Homeland Security Committee. So Anthropic's executive went there and showed them how the Mythos works and what kind of findings they have discovered. In the article, they have mentioned the members left the briefing saying it reinforced the urgency of ensuring U.S. civilian cyber defenders get access to the frontier models before foreign adversaries do. So if you ask me, where do I stand in this question of, is this Anthropic's marketing stunt, or is this Anthropic's warning on a good intention? I think it can be both. But I'm leaning towards more on a side on it is the warning from Anthropic, trying to make people stay more alert. because based on what we have seen, a series of actions that the government bodies are trying to take, they're interested in it. And they're starting to ask a question about what if. What if our organizations get attacked? What if the software get attacked by the hacker and the whole system froze? What are the things that we can do? Now you would probably start to raise the question, then what can we do? Thankfully, Anthropic, on this read anthropic.com article, they have listed down things that we can do. Let's look at a few things that we can take an action today. Use generally available frontier models to strengthen defense now. So even though we don't have access to Mythos now, it doesn't mean that there's nothing we can do. We can use the state-of-the-art model. They've included Claude Opus 4.6, but also other LLM models. Try to discover the high critical severity vulnerabilities, bugs that might be potentially lead to the zero-day vulnerabilities. Second is think beyond vulnerability finding. So not just focus on what kind of vulnerability we had, but try to go through the whole security reporting system. Evaluate the correctness and severity of the bug reports, the duplicate bug reports, and also assist writing reproduction steps for vulnerability reports. It gives some infrastructure-related advice, such as analyze cloud environments for misconfigurations. There are a lot more advices, such as shorten patch cycles, review your vulnerability disclosure policy, check on your vulnerability on a mitigation strategy. If you are running startup or if you're running your website, I would totally recommend to read this one. I'll try to link this website on the description below that you can take a look. A few weeks ago, I attended AI security related event, which was hosted by Alan Turing Institute, and the main speaker was Dr. Rodriguez. Dr. Rodriguez is someone who worked in a security group at the Google DeepMind and currently working on national security related projects in US. One of the lines that really struck me was the same model that finds the bug exploits it. The defense and offense are now the same capability. It is really scary that imagining all my life, this YouTube that we're watching, Netflix we're watching, all the internet, all of this system can be frozen or interrupted by hackers in the future using AI. It is scary. I'm pretty curious how this Mythos would be released. Would it be released this year? And I'm not sure what would be the future steps of the Project Glasswing. I hope you watch this video and try to check on your website security. And if it's helpful, I'm happy with that. If you're interested in any other AI trends or want to learn AI better, please follow and subscribe. Thank you.